invite you to settle deeper now. I ask you to find a soft spot where the body can relax. I speak slowly. My voice is low and steady. I keep the room quiet. I breathe with you for a moment. Inhale lightly. Exhale slowly. Let the shoulders drop. Let the jaw unclench. Allow the eyes to close if that feels right. This evening, I read from Luke in a way that soothes. I do not rush the words. I let them float like a warm blanket over thought. I place the Bible on my lap as if holding a small lamp. I do not hold it high. I keep it near. The pages whisper as I turn them. The light is soft. The night is gentle. I imagine a window with a thin curtain and the hush outside. The words I share are an old river. They move, and they carry us toward rest. I begin with a scene by water. The boat rocks under moonlight. The air tastes of salt and quiet. A group slips into sleep. Worn from work, tucked under the steady sway, I picture the dark water rising in curls. Wind presses against sails and shoulders. Waves push and pull like a thought that will not leave. Fear meets the small craft. Yet there is an unexpected calm in the center of that chaos. A presence rests. Even as the storm presses, hands find a resting place. The steady breath of someone who trusts slows the rhythm of the group. A sense comes that strength is not loud. It arrives like a hand on a knee, steady and warm. The sea listens. The wind folds. What felt like breaking begins to soften. When the rush of water lessens, the small craft is no longer tossed. Surface is smooth. The air tastes sweeter. The silence that follows is not empty. It is full of something that looks like mercy. In that hush, there is a lesson for sleepless nights. Disturbance can surround, but calm can be found within reach. I let that picture settle against the inside of the chest. Breathe with it. Breathe into the hush. From the shore, I draw another image. Imagine a crowd moving with tired feet. Faces show the map of hard days. Some carry burdens too heavy to speak. They come for a touch that will not be hurried. I see hands reach out, and compassion answers them. Sickness and sorrow meet warmth, not judgment. A woman with a grief that closed her eyes sees a change in one step. The heavy thing that had a name is eased into light. The suddenness of healing is not loud. It is simple and steady, like dawn returning the color to a pale room. This healing is not a spectacle for a stage. It is an intimate restoration. An arm goes around a life. A child is steadied. A widow receives her son back in a way that starts a river of grateful breathing. I let that image rest beside the boat on the water. The seas calm, and a healed life hold the same quality peace that reaches into the bones. Later, I breathe in the story of the shepherd, who notices when one is missing. The flock moves across a field. One small life slips away, perhaps lost in bramble or fog. The 99 continue in safety, and yet the shepherd does not count comfort. The heart notices a single absence and moves. Shoes meet the ground. Steps leave prints. Search follows, measured and tender. When the lost one is found, The shepherd carries it home. Joy unwraps like warm bread. In the quiet of the night, picture that shepherd bending low to lift the stray. Feel the relief, not as noise, but as a steady return. It is a reminder that no small pain is overlooked. Even the smallest loss is known and sought. Rest can be found in the certainty that attention comes for the one who wanders. I let my voice lower. I speak close, like someone sitting by the bedside. There is a father who watches a road with hope. One who was absent returns with a worn coat and a lighter step that comes from the relief of choice, finally made. The father does not wait with a ledger of grievances. He steps out with open arms. The welcome covers the years of absence. The house fills with music and a table set with abundance. The scene smells of bread and forgiveness. Joy is not loud. It is a steady warmth that fills rooms again. This story folds into many nights when the heart aches with longing. It offers a simple line: restoration is possible even after a long wandering. Mercy does not depend on merit. It comes as a homecoming. Rest can be a return. The thought lets the breath become softer. As the night deepens, I bring to mind a bedside in a small town. A widow walks through a crowd with a grief on her shoulders, heavy as winter. Her child is gone from her arms. People stop. A hush follows. Then something moves into that hush. A man looks towards the stretcher. He lifts not just the child, but the grief that belongs to a mother. Life returns to the face that had gone pale. The people who watch feel the change like warmth seeping into a cold stone. Such moments do not rush us toward answers. They invite us to pause and accept gentleness. They ask nothing from the heart, but to receive mercy. In the dark, mercy looks like a soft hand smoothing the hair of someone worn out. The beauty of that image is that mercy is not distant. It bends close. I speak now of rest. That is not escape, but shelter. There are words that remind not to clench the chest in worry. Picture a field where grass grows without the command of hands. Birds trace the sky with carefree loops. The thought that provides for grass and birds is not thoughtless of you. Provision looks like care, small and large enough for today. Grace for the next step. Warmth when night arrives. The mind that molds the morning does not forget the person who trembles before sleep. I let the voice slow further. The slow place is where assurance sits. I ask the listener to imagine leaves that do not fret as night falls. Their rest is quiet. The mind that makes seasons knows the number of hairs in a head, not to be weighed in worry, but to feel that steadiness is a gift. The body responds to that knowing. Muscles enclenchent. The jaw unclamps. The breath lengthens. There is safety in being sought. There is humility in being noticed. The stories fold back into each other like a quilt on a bed. A sleepless hour becomes less sharp when thought rests on tales of care. A life that feels scattered can picture a returning hand. A restless mind can imagine a boat riding out a storm and finding stillness. I do not speak doctrine or debate. I share pictures that lull the spirit. They are not complicated. They are small, repeated images of mercy. In them, rest comes as a skill practiced by the heart to look, to breathe, to receive. The Gospel in Luke gives this rhythm. It is not a list of rules. It is a series of breaths, each one slower than the last. The night can take shape around that rhythm. Before moving on, I invite a short silence. Keep breathing. Let the last image of warmth sit by the ribs. Imagine a light in a small window. Imagine a room with a chair pulled close to a fireplace of mercy. The presence spoken of in Scripture is not distant in that picture. It sits across the room, offering a cup. One sip is enough for now. Another will come in the morning if the night continues long. When you are ready, hold the scene of the day wrapped in kind hands. Let the mind slip from concern's edge. Allow thoughts to pass like clouds. They come and go. You watch them without clutching. Pain may still be present. That does not mean rest is out of reach. Rest is choice and gift. Choose the gentleness of the stories for a while. Let them be a cushion for the mind. I will move on in the next part. But before that, I linger where healing and rest meet. I slow the cadence of words so that each image can settle. The room breathes as one body, slow and synchronized. The clock tick is soft. The night's hush grows deeper. Now, with this quiet, I offer a short prayerful thought without words. It is a posture rather than a speech, a leaning toward trust, a small surrender of the day's tightness. Feel the weight of the day lower onto the lap of mercy. Feel the shoulders release a little more. I finish this section with an invitation to continue listening. When sleep eludes, return to the images of sea and shore, of lost and found, of hands that heal, and of the gentle Father who opens the door. Let these scenes be the path that guides the eyes closed. Let them carry the heart like a steady hand across the darkness. I pause now and rest on the last line like a warm stone. The next part will carry further into Luke's tenderness. For now, breathe. Stay in the hush. Let the breath lengthen. The night is a companion, not an enemy. Rest comes quietly. I turn the page with a slow motion. The paper makes a small sound. The room holds it. My voice stays low. I read from Luke with care. Each sentence sits like a small stone on the palm. The words are simple. The images settle quickly. They invite the heart to rest. A hillside appears next. People sit on the ground. Breath meets breath. The teacher speaks softly from near the edge of the hill. The words are not sharp. They come like rain that loosens hard soil. The poor in spirit are noticed. The gentle are promised comfort. Those who mourn are promised a kind hand. The language does not shame. It names what is tender and gives it room. The scene asks only that ears be open. It asks only that grief be seen. In this quiet, the verse becomes a soft lamp. It does not demand an answer. It points to a posture. Lean toward the small light. Learn to be gentle with the thin places inside. The words promise a company for those who feel alone. They promise a presence that rests near the broken places. I let the hillside breathe into the room. The slope becomes a slow incline toward rest. Each line allows another exhale. The beat of worry slows. The heart can rest in the knowing that lowliness is not invisible. Comfort comes in the careful noticing of simple need. The promise is a quiet tether to hold the night. From the hillside I move to a road where a traveller lies by the side. People pass without seeing. A few look away, then someone stops. The act is small: oil, bandage, and a steady hand. A stranger becomes neighbour through the work of care. The story does not make much of heroism. It makes much of attention. The lamp that lights the traveller's face is a soft thing. It reveals the tenderness of an act. It shows how ordinary hands can make a wound less raw. The inn becomes a safe room, a room with a bed and a quiet lamp. The cost is not counted as a boast. It is simply given and continued. The scene teaches that community is often built in small, repeated kindnesses. Listen now to the rhythm of that giving. Notice how quiet it is. Notice how ordinary. A neighbour passing by with no great crowd. 2 hands steadying a jaw. A blanket shared. The lesson lives in small motions. These motions make a city softer. They make a night less hard. I slow the reading as I carry the voice into a low room where friends act with stubborn love. A house has a roof that creaks. A man cannot walk. He waits at the edge of a crowd. The friends do not wait for permission. They lift him. They make a path through tile and rafters. When he drops through, the room breathes with a new air. The one who could not come is now front and center. This moment holds a soft miracle of friendship. It tells how community can break habits of distance to bring someone home. The friend's fingers are not flashy. They are firm and persistent. They remind the tired listener that rescue often arrives in the steady interception of others. Faith, in this telling, appears as a shared act. It looks like people leaning into the inconvenience of love. The picture asks the listener to consider small courage, a phone call in the dark, a meal left at a door, a hand that helps steady an arm. Nothing showy is required. The gospel here honors the tenacity of care more than spectacle. The quiet labor of friends is itself a kind of grace. The voice moves to a table where food is set and strangers become company. A man sits with those who carry shame. The posture is not judgment but welcome. Plates pass. Conversation happens in the easy pauses between bites. The scene admits many kinds of people into the same light. The meal is not a debate. It is a place to be seen. This table is an invitation to rest within belonging. There is no ledger kept of error. Instead, there is presence. The scene suggests that healing sometimes looks like being allowed to sit where sunlight falls, to be offered bread without interrogation. The comfort comes in being known and not dismissed. In the shade of a fig tree, a small figure climbs. Eyes look down from a low branch. A heart that once feared steps now leans forward. The crowd below murmurs. The moment is quiet and odd, but a calling breaks through the chatter. A simple word changes the pattern of the day. The figure comes down, and a community shifts. A life known only by name becomes a person among people. This scene carries a tender truth. Change can begin with a single approachable act. The choice to be seen can ripple outward. What follows is not always dramatic. It may be a slow repair. Yet that slow mending is real. It knits a life back into the town. These stories in Luke are not designed as lessons to master. They function as soft lights on a path. They do not require complex answers. They ask for honest presence. They show how small movements of mercy spread, a cup offered, an ear given to listen, a home opened for a while. The gospel tends to comfort by showing what care looks like at close range. I speak now about the way these scenes meet the need for spiritual comfort. The voice in the room is not a teacher's loud instruction. It is a companion that points to mercy. Spiritual comfort in these pages looks like neighbors who notice, friends who act, and tables that welcome. It looks like a world where small gestures are the fabric of healing. This is authenticity. Real people with real hands. Make the work plain. There is a place here for community engagement. The text invites gentle involvement, not frantic performance. Steps to take are small and specific. Call an old friend tonight. Bring bread to the doorstep of someone who cannot cook. Sit quietly with a neighbor and listen to what is said without trying to fix everything. Offer a small payment toward someone's bill. Share a lantern on a porch. These acts are seeds of comfort. The reading suggests that sharing stories matters. When grief is spoken, it shrinks away from the center. When joy is told, it multiplies. A community grows honest by telling its small truths. Encourage a neighbor to share a single line of their story. Offer space for that line to be heard. Authenticity comes when speech is matched with attention. I invite a habit that is gentle and steady. Once a week, write one note to someone who has been seen but not heard. Once a month, bring a hot meal without expecting thanks. Once in a long while, admit a mistake and ask for help. These acts align with the gospel's movement from isolation to belonging. They do not demand perfection. They reward presence. For those who carry worry tonight, imagine a lamp passed from hand to hand. The lamp does not burn out when shared. It grows warmer. Community is like that lamp. The single light in a small room becomes more luminous when others draw near. Comfort spreads by being offered, not by being hoarded. Slowly, I fold the images inward. The reading becomes quieter. Breath lengthens. The room feels less sharp. The Gospel's pictures of neighborly care and stubborn friendship settle like a blanket. They do not banish sorrow. They cushion it. Before the page closes, I offer a small practice for sleep. Name one person whose name comes first into the mind. Think of one thing small that could be done for that person in the next day. Keep it simple. A text, a loaf, a listening ear. Picture the small action as a kind of prayer in motion. Let that image ride into sleep. I pause now and let silence fill a few slow counts. Let the last image be the lamp passed between hands. Let the last breath meet the quiet. The presence in Luke is not distant doctrine but an up-close compassion. That compassion sits beside the bed tonight. When the moment to sleep arrives, fold the stories close, like a cloth. Let the breath fall into a long, soft line. The body gives way. The heart becomes less sharp. Community waits near the edges of the dream. Acts of gentle mercy stand ready in the morning. I close this section with a short intentional breath. It is a small surrender of the day's tightness, a resting in a known kindness. The next part will continue among the Gospel's tender scenes. It will carry the voice deeper into stories that steady and soothe. Rest now. Let the lamp be passed. Keep the hearth of mercy warm. The night is a companion, and so are the hands that care. I turn the page slowly. The paper sighs beneath my fingers. The lamp tilts its small circle of light on the open sheet. The room keeps its hush. My voice comes close and steady. I speak as someone who reads before sleep. The Bible rests like a quiet companion on my knees. Tonight I move to a different kind of scene. A woman sings, not with loud trumpets, not with proud words. She speaks from a place small and tender. Her voice is like a ribbon of sound. It folds into the night. The song is a grateful song. It names surprise and wonder. It names a heart made humble and full at once. I do not recite the lines. I tell of their shape. The song begins with praise that rises as naturally as breath. A young woman notices how life has turned. She has been seen. Mercy falls not because of her merit, but because something older and kinder looks and acts. The song bows to that looking. It is a soft knowing that life can be held by a love that visits without ceremony. What strikes the ear is not the grandeur of a throne. It is the attention paid to simple things. The proud are not honored here. The small are lifted. The hungry are fed. The rich leave needing. The world is rearranged by tenderness. These are images, not instructions. They sit gently beside the bed like small stones. I imagine the singer in a dim room. A child may stir nearby. A cup sits cooling on a table. She breathes in the surprise of being chosen for a purpose she did not imagine. The song presses down and keeps small spaces safe. Humility is like a soft cloak. Gratitude fastens it at the throat. It will not let fear blow it away. There is a steady thread through the song remembering. The past is not a ledger of failures. It is a history marked by mercy. An old promise is recalled. The memory that keeps is a memory kind as a parent's hand. It remembers not to punish, but to fulfill. This remembering becomes a shelter against the night. As I read this scene into the quiet, I notice how presence changes shape. Presence can be huge like a mountain. It can be quiet, like a candle. In this song, presence is a closeness that meets the lowly and makes a way. It does not shout, it kneels. I let the images float for a moment. Think of grace as a small thing that arrives like rain after a long drought. The soil drinks it. The smallest seed lifts. It is not dramatic in the way a city fire might be. It is patient. It is steady. Gratitude grows in that patience. A heart softened by mercy becomes a home for hope. The voice in the room grows softer. The lamp throws less shadow. I speak of humility as a substrate for peace. Humility is not self-disparagement. It is the quiet acknowledgement of dependence. The singer knows that life does not rest solely on her strength. That recognition frees the mind from the need to prove. Rest sits in that freedom. The song's tenderness invites a very simple practice. Name one small thing for which to be thankful tonight. Keep the list tiny. A warm blanket, a safe step home, a hand that steadies, a laugh that came unexpectedly. The point is not to make a catalogue of perfection. It is to lean into the small grace woven through the day. I ask the listener to breathe with the thought. Inhale the image. Exhale the tension. Let the breath echo the rhythm of the song. Gratitude becomes a slow loop notice. Receive. Rest. It does not demand loud confession. It asks only the attention of a softened heart. There is another line in the song that steadies me. It speaks of reversal. The tall are made low, and the low are raised. The strong who hoard lose their hold. The hungry who ask are filled with good things. This is not a quick formula. It is a tender reordering. It touches the edges of fairness with mercy. The posture is not triumph. It is renewal. I hold that image gently. Imagine a dinner table. A sate opens. Someone thought unworthy sits and is given bread. The movement is simple. The world shifts without clamor. A quiet justice spreads like warm light across a table. That light is warmth, not heat. It heals rather than burns. I stay with the idea of being chosen to receive. The singer's voice is small but sure. She knows herself to be one who needed looking upon. In that look she is made able to give thanks. The circle is gentle being seen, leads to praise. Praise opens the heart to serve. Gratitude becomes an engine for mercy. It does not end in words. It moves outward. Reading this to you, I think of how presence arrives into rooms tonight. It might be a text read at midnight. It might be a hand on a shoulder. It might be a quiet voice saying, "You are seen." Presence is not a distant doctrine. It is a practical thing that can be felt against a back. On a pillow, under a palm, the singer knew the kind of presence that changes a life. The rest of us can live with that same closeness. I pause and let the room breathe. The lamplight softens into a wash. I picture people across towns, in small houses and in dorm rooms, leaning into the same song without knowing it. Mercy threads through ordinary lives. The effect is not loud. It is like a tide that comes to a shore and moves the sand a little. The song ends with a strong trust in the fidelity of the one who remembers promises. It does not spin out complex theology. It rests in a relational certainty. A promise is kept, like a hand that returns. That returning hand becomes a reason to sleep without terror. It makes the night less full of dread. It makes morning possible. I encourage a small exercise before a drifting into slumber. Think of one promise that steadies you, not a theological weight. A simple tether. Perhaps the knowledge that kindness can be returned. Perhaps a memory of a time when someone's help arrived, exactly when it was needed. Let that promise sit at the base of your skull, like a soft stone. Let it hold the night. Now I move toward the next part of our reading. The heading reads, Encountering Divine Presence. The words land as a whisper rather than a proclamation. I let the phrase unfold like steam from a cup. Presence, in the telling of Luke, is not an abstract idea. It is encountered in births and meals, in whispered songs, and in steady hands. I share how presence feels as I read. It is not a cold word in a book. It warms the pages when the singer of the song lifts her voice. Presence arrives as a promised companion. I feel it in the cadence of the lines. The breath in the room synchronizes. A hush falls like the first snow. The body accepts a different rhythm. The chest relaxes. Presence is often quiet. It can be the absence of chaos. It can be the containment of fear. When a hand touches a brow, the feeling is almost immediate. The mind softens. A small calm settles across the ribs. That is encountering presence. The gospel shows it in unremarkable places. Births, meals, streets where a person is helped. These are the theatres of grace. I describe one of those scenes now, not in the voice of a narrator who knows everything. In the voice of someone who watches patiently. A quietrum, a birth. A mother breathes. The world narrows to a breath and a name that will soon be known. The neighbors hold the door. The lamp stays low. A presence moves through the room like a cool breeze. It steadies the hands and the mind. No fanfare is needed. The ordinary is holy when observed with attention. There is comfort in the ordinariness. The big, dramatic miracles are rare, but small encounters of presence are steady and trustworthy. A friend washing dishes, a neighbor leaving soup at the door. The words, "You are not alone," whispered across the phone. Each is a small place where the divine meets the human. The gospel scenes show this plainly. The greatest shifts often begin in the smallest actions. I offer a simple invitation. Tonight, practice noticing presence in small things. A light that keeps the path from darkness. A blanket that warms a foot. A chair that holds. Name one ordinary item that carries presence tonight. Thank it silently. Let the act of noticing become a prayer without words. Let the body accept that prayer. Let the muscles unweave some tension. The room listens. The page breathes. The lamp burns without hurry. I think about how presence does not always erase trouble. Sometimes it simply keeps company with it. A pain may remain. A loss may still be raw. Yet presence offers a shoulder to lean against. It holds space for grief without demanding that it be fixed. That containment offers rest. In the singer's song, that presence also becomes a promise about the world. The smallness is not forgotten. The hungry are filled. The proud are humbled. Justice moves not by spectacle, but by steady, gentle rearrangement. That is the shape of hope here. It is not a swagger. It is a low, persistent light that changes one life at a time. I let that thought rest. Now, the voice drops another notch. The reading slows. Breath lengthens. I invite the listener to fold the song into the night like a soft cloth. Take it in and let it line the pillow. Let humility and gratitude be the last things felt before sleep. Let presence be the quiet companion that holds the edges of the dream. As the page settles, I make a small promise of my own. I will come back to these scenes. The next section will walk deeper into the gospel's tenderness. For now, rest in the song's simplicity. Let praise begin as a small warmth in the chest. Let presence sit like a hand there, light and steady. I close the Bible for a moment and press my palm to the cover. The sound is minimal. The room keeps its hush. Sleep approaches like a tide. The heart softens. The lamp keeps a steady glow. The next part will continue, and it will carry the same steady, low voice. For now, breathe in the memory of a grateful song. Breathe out into the night. Presence is near. Presence is kind. Rest here a while. I turn the page with deliberate care. The paper breathes under my fingers. The lamp keeps its small circle. My voice stays low. I speak as one who reads scripture before sleep. The story I bring now is set in a field under a wide sky. It asks that the night be held softly. Imagine a plain, damp with evening. Grass bends under cool air. Small fires of breath rise from sheep. The animals rest in small knots of warmth. The shepherds stay awake by habit. Their work does not end with dusk. They watch flocks and sky. The world is wide and open. Sound travels far. The ordinary night is honest and plain. The sky above them is not the same as the dark you know. It opens like a door. A light appears above the field. It is not a beam meant to startle, but a presence that settles like a blanket of good weather. The men feel the light on their faces. The moment holds a hush that is almost a promise. It is not loud. It is not violent. It is steady and clear. I ask the listener to breathe with that image. Inhale slowly. Let the chest rest. Notice how the air cools the skin. The light in the field does not burn. It comforts. It presses a gentle palm against the harshness of the night. There is relief in the light. Anxiety blinks and softens. With the light comes sound, but not the clamor of news. It is a calm voice of announcement, an assurance that trouble will not be the lasting thing. The message is about peace. It does not mean the end of all difficulty. It means a presence that enters where fear waits. The idea of peace lands like bread in the hand of someone who has been hungry. It is simple. It is enough. I do not speak the words as they were first spoken. I do not recite lines. Instead, I shape their meaning. The message is, there is good near at hand. There is mercy that bends low. There is a comfort that visits at night and stays close to the small things. Hear that, and let the chest unclench. Around the light, there is a change in sound. What had been small noises, sheep rustling, a hat shifting. The scrape of a sandal becomes a hush. The world seems to bend toward the field. The ordinary becomes sacred by attention. The shepherds stand like people who have been given permission to stop holding their breath. I hold the scene close and ask you to imagine the faces of those who keep watch. They are not formal. They are tired. Hands show calluses. Eyes are used to low light. These are not the elite. They are practical people who know the work of keeping on. Yet in the plane of their lives, a presence touches them. That is a steady thought for the sleepless heart. The high places are not the only places where kindness touches earth. The light widens. The field does not become chaotic. The sheep keep their rhythm. The night air collects the song of a change. Many voices lift, but not in a way that shouts. It is more like a choir that settles into a tune, so gentle it could be mistaken for the rustle of leaves. The sound is not meant to thrill the crowd. It is meant to steady a soul. It speaks of peace for people who fear, comfort for those who mourn, and a calm that speaks to the heart more than the mind. I invite the listener to let the word peace sit at the center of the chest. Do not ask it to solve everything. Let it be a small, steady fact. Rest with the sense that mercy approaches even in the most ordinary places. The mind that refuses to sleep may find that a softer thought is easier to hold. The shepherds do not remain passive. They are moved by the light and the sound. They remember a road, an old promise, or perhaps a quiet hope. They rise from low seats on the ground and set off. Their feet press the soil. Steps that might be slow become determined. The destination is close but not yet visible. The journey matters because it is a sign of attention. Movement here is not frantic. It is reverent. Think of the act of going as a prayer without words. The footsteps are simple. They cross fields, pass beginnings of fences, and drink in breath by breath. Each step is a decision to trust the light and the promise. Let that slow procession draw the breath in the room a little deeper. Let the body follow with its own graceful movement of release. At the destination, there is an ordinary room in an ordinary house. A child lies small and warm. The people gathered know what it means to be newly given a life. The way they look is a mixture of awe and care. They feel a presence that moves through hands and breath. The child is a sign not of power shouted from a hilltop, but of mercy placed in a fragile resting place. The shepherds who find the child do what people do when they recognize something precious. They see. They keep watch. Their surprise turns into joy, quiet and luminous. That joy does not empty suffering. It reframes it. It tells the heart that the night can hold both sorrow and a light that is friendlier than fear. I let the scene settle like a cloth over a lap. The room of the listener grows softer. The idea that the divine touches low places becomes less abstract. Presence becomes something tangible, like warm bread, like a blanket, like a hand laying a steady palm. This is the kind of touch that soothes teeth that ache at night and calms the pulse that stutters in worry. The shepherds carry their discovery back into the night. Their step is lighter. They speak of what they have seen. Their words are not loud lore. They are witness and wonder. To tell of what calms a heart is itself a quiet ministry. Hearing their tale, others feel hope reappear like a candle relit. Listen to the rhythm of this witness. It begins as attention. It becomes movement. It ends in sharing. Each stage is gentle. Each stage calls for no heroics. The gospel here draws attention to the ordinary path from awe to action. Let that pattern settle as a model for small acts tonight. Notice something good. Move toward it. Speak about it softly. I ask the listener to imagine repeating that pattern in small life. Notice one kindness. Walk toward it with a small deed. Share the memory with someone else. The night can become rounder by such small acts. Mercy widens not by spectacle, but by repeated, humble motion. There is a particular quality to the peace announced that I want to hold close. It feels like a promise not to leave the heart alone with its worst thoughts. It is not a removal of consequences or a denial of pain. It is a reshaping of the interior climate. Where anger and fear make sharp edges, the announced peace lays a smoothing hand. That smoothing hand changes how sleep comes. The breath is allowed to lengthen. Muscles soften. The mind accepts a smaller narrative for the night. As one who reads these pages aloud before sleep, I invite a tiny practice. Picture the field and the light. Picture yourself as one of those watchers. What is the small thing you can do tonight that follows from being seen? Send a short message to someone who may be lonely. Leave an extra blanket on a chair. Make a cup of tea for a housemate. These acts are not grand. They are faithful. They pass peace like a coin from hand to hand. The shepherds, having seen, return to their work changed. The night is the same night. The sheep still breathe and chew. But something in the hearts of the watchers has been rearranged. They return to routine with a quieter step. The ordinary labor is now threaded with a memory. Memory becomes a resource for later fear. When the wind sharpens weeks after, the remembered light comes back like a small lamp. That is a practice for the sleepless store small lights. Keep them ready. When anxiety returns, draw one forward. Let the memory be a gentle substitute for worry. This is not denial. It is presence given as a defense. It holds more securely than frantic thoughts do. The scene raises also a tenderness about who is chosen to receive such news. The shepherds are simple folk, not the powerful or the learned. The message moves to those who keep watch in ordinary places. That pattern speaks to a quiet theology of accessibility. The good news is approachable. It enters the low places. That truth rests the mind that fears unworthiness. It is an assurance that care can come to small doors and tiny rooms. I let that thought sit by the ribs. Do not make it heavy. Let it be a light pebble in the palm. Its shape is comfort. It says that notice often comes to those who do not expect it. Mercy finds unlikely homes. That is a balm for a heart that thinks it is invisible. As the night grows deeper, the shepherd's story spreads. Others come to see and to believe in a way that is restful rather than busy. Faith, in this telling, is not a feverish answer. It is a slow settling into what has been witnessed. It fits like a glove that finally touches a hand. The act of believing is a return to attention, not a frantic quest for proof. I keep my voice low and imagine listeners drifting nearer to sleep. Let the field and the light form a slow film behind the eyelids. Let the sheep's breathing set a rhythm for the chest. Allow the calm announcement to be a pillow for the mind. The peace given to the shepherds is not a promise of an easy life. It is a promise of a presence that meets nights like this one. Before I close the page, I offer a short breathing exercise anchored in the scene. Inhale for 4 counts, imagining the light widening. Hold for 2 counts, recalling the peace at the center. Exhale for 6 counts, releasing the tight edges. Do this 3 times. Let each round return attention to the field, to the watchful shepherds, and to the steady light that visits ordinary nights. There is a final quiet act the shepherds do that I ask you to notice. After they have seen and shared, they carry the memory back to routine. They sleep with a different peace. The rest they find is not escape. It is companionship. They meet the night, knowing they are watched over. That companionship is the gift to hold tonight. I close this part with a soft sentence of intention. Keep the image of the light near. Let the promise of peace be a cushion under worry. Allow the mind to be held, like the sheep in the field watched, fed, kept close. The next page will bring another scene, and I will turn it slowly. For now, breathe. Rest in the hush of the field. The night carries mercy. Presence is near. I turn the page with a careful touch. The lamp leans its circle over the paper. My voice is low and steady. I read as one who sits by the bedside, keeping watch while the world softens. Tonight the story gathers in a room full of people. The place is close and warm. The air hums with many small sounds, the scrape of sandals, the murmur of questions, the slow settling of a body that has stood too long. A man lies still on a mat. He cannot walk. His life has narrowed to a few inches of cloth, and the taste of dust. Friends carry him. Their steps are slow and sure. They are not thinking of themselves. Their aim is one single good, to bring the man close, where help might be found. The crowd presses. Doors are full. The house is crowded with voices that want answers. Those friends move with the kind of stubborn tenderness that does small, hard things. They lift him and bend the roof. The wood gives way with a soft, sunlit sound. Dust falls like a gentle rain. The mat descends through the opening. Hands hold steady ropes and shoulders. Each motion is an act of faith, not a loud show. The friends do not ask for glory. Their work is a quiet refusal to leave someone at the edge. Down below, close to the mat, is a presence that eases the room. The man who heals looks upon the effort. There is no posture of scorn. There is no weariness. The eyes take in the whole scene, and a kind of decision comes into the space. A word is offered that does more than make a body stand. It names a release. It gives permission to begin again. The house breathes in that moment. The naming of forgiveness is like a door unlatched. Guilt loosens its hold. The room shifts from accusation to welcome. The man on the mat feels something change before the legs respond. The inner load that sat like a stone on the heart begins to lighten. That lightness is part of the healing as much as movement of the limbs. Then the body responds. Muscles that have learned only to rest remember motion. The man rises. He steadies himself on his own feet. He folds up the mat. What was once a mark of limitation becomes a measure of newness. The crowd in the house sees not just a healed body, but a life given another season. The reaction is quiet wonder and a kind gratitude that the night can carry. People see that mercy has weight in action. When I read this aloud, I attend to the hush that follows. Forgiveness is not merely an idea. It is a practical change. It asks the heart to let go of old accusations. It offers a fresh path. A new beginning is not simply a promise for the far future. It starts now. In the chest, it moves the shoulders. It lengthens the breath. Think of forgiveness like a hand that steadies a shoulder. It does not erase the past as if it had never been. It does not pretend the hurt was not real. Instead, it offers a way to carry what happened without being crushed by it. That steadiness is peace. It is an internal arrangement that keeps old grievances from crowning the night. The man who rises does not win because the past is forgotten. He wins because the past no longer rules. Let the image sit for a moment. Imagine being lowered through a roof by friends who refuse to be polite at the cost of mercy. Feel the wood splinters, the warmth of arms that hold, the soft rain of dust. Inhale that steadiness. Exhale the tightness that has lived in the chest. Picture a word spoken that names forgiveness. Let it pass like cool water over a fevered brow. The body is soothed first. The spirit follows. Forgiveness brings a kind of peace that is not merely the absence of conflict. It is the presence of reconciliation. It reconnects what was cut off. It makes room in a house that had been crowded with worry. The room in the story seems ordinary afterward. The dust settles. The voices resume. But the air is altered. People walk away carrying a memory that will warm future nights. This easing of the spirit matters, because the mind tends to replay the last hard scene. It will run a failure on a loop at 2 a.m. Forgiveness interrupts that loop. It gives permission for a different narrative to begin. The new narrative does not erase responsibility. It simply rearranges the heart so that responsibility does not become a prison. There is also something to learn from the friends. They do not wait for the perfect moment. They are practical. They find a way around the crowd. That insistence teaches how to bring others into healing. Sometimes help requires a certain boldness. A phone call at midnight. A visit on a slow afternoon. A willingness to carry the awkward load of asking for help. The act of seeking mercy for someone else is itself a meditation on peace. Helping becomes a way to practice forgiveness at the edges of life. Make room now for a brief breath, exercise inspired by the scene. Breathe in for 4 counts. Imagining hands lifting. Hold for 2. Feeling the mat balance. Breathe out for 6. Releasing the weight of self-blame. Repeat this 3 times. Let each round lower the shoulders a little further. Let the slow exhale be a small benediction. The self that must be forgiven is seen. The self that must forgive is not alone. The story also reminds that peace often arrives through ordinary bodies. The healers here are friends, not officials. The voice that names forgiveness arrives in a dusty house. This suggests that reconciliation is not reserved for grand stages. It happens in kitchen light, on the edge of sleep, in small rooms where hands find hands. The ordinary is the theatre of mercy. For those nights when regret returns, keep a practical image close. Picture a mat being folded and carried outside into the open air. Imagine old accusations rolled up like old cloth and set aside for mending. Picture friends who refuse to leave without making a way. These images are not miraculous escapes. They are steady resources. When anxiety knocks, they offer a remembered pathway back to steadiness. There is another quiet lesson in the witness's reaction. They give thanks. Their gratitude does not sound like boastful triumph. It sounds like people noticing that something right has been done. Gratitude loosens worry. It reorients the heart towards the good. A mind that practices noticing the small mercies will sleep more easily. The habit trains the body to welcome calm. As the reader who keeps watch, I ask a gentle question. Is there one small thing that could be forgiven tonight? Perhaps a mistake that keeps being rehearsed. Perhaps an old slight that still sits in the ribs. Forgiveness does not demand a long letter or an apology in perfect form. Sometimes it begins with a quiet decision to stop turning the page over and over. Choose that small step. Let it be the first step of a new path. If it helps, practice a short prayerless act. Place a hand over the heart. Breathe in, naming the feeling that is hardest to forgive. Breathe out, imagining that feeling loosening like a knot. Stay with this motion for a few breaths. Let the body accept the release, even if the mind protests. Peace often arrives through habit more than argument. Keep in mind that forgiveness also asks for patience. The man's limbs do not dance. The instant the word is spoken, the healing moves through stages. Likewise, letting go takes time. Be mild with the process. Small mercy repeated is a better tutor than sudden bursts of self-judgment. Allow the nights to train the heart. Allow the slow work of new beginnings to do its plain, steady labor. I end this reading with a quiet image, a mat folded at the foot of a bed, a house that breathes easier, friends who walk away with lighter steps. The peace in that scene is gentle and durable. Keep that picture by the pillow. Let it be a soft thing the mind can pick up when worry wakes in the night. When sleep comes, let the body rest in that steadiness. The next part of the reading will carry forward the same low voice. It will move into other stories that tenderly press mercy into ordinary lives. For now, breathe. Let the memory of a healed life and of forgiven sin be like a small lamp on the nightstand. Let the breath lengthen. Let peace, born of release and of friendship, hold the ribs. The room is quiet. The heart may now find its rest. I turn the page with a careful hand. The lamp keeps its small circle of light. The room stays quiet. My voice is low. I read as one who has sat by a bedside many times. The next scene moves to water and wind. It asks for a stillness that can hold fear. Imagine a boat on a lake. The wood rocks underfoot. Water makes a steady slap against the hull. The air tastes of salt and wet earth. The sky darkens like a curtain being drawn. Wind comes hard and quick. It tosses small waves into teeth. The sound is immediate and loud. It presses against the ribs. Think of being in that boat. Now, feet find boards slick with spray. Hands grip a rope. Breath shortens. The mind counts risks. The horizon disappears beneath grey. The storm is real. It does not ask permission. It tests the small craft and the ones inside it. In the center of that shaking is a presence who rests. He is not busy, arguing with the wind. He sleeps as if the world were a calm place. His breathing sets a slow rhythm. There is a warmth in that, even when the storm screams. It feels strange at first. A dutiful fear is near. Yet a steadier thing also sits close to the chest. The people in the boat wake him. They bring their worry to his attention. panic is a small animal that pushes its nose into any space. Left open, it searches for counters and plans, but the presence closes his eyes only long enough to notice them. Then he stands and meets the storm with a quiet attention. He does not raise a fist at the wind. He gives a command that is simple and firm. The wind eases. Water calms. The lake becomes an expanse that rolls like a sleeping dog. The change is immediate and tender. The air softens. The boat no longer rocks as it did. The hands that gripped ropes let go. The muscles begin to unfold. Silence is not empty. It is full of relief. The scene is not about thunder and answer. It is about a hand that comes and smooths a brow. Listen to the way that feeling settles into the body. Fear had tightened the throat. The assurance loosens the line. Breathing becomes deeper by small degrees. The mind makes room for a slower thought, that storms may come, and still peace be near. The presence does not promise the end of weather. It promises steadiness in it. I ask you to breathe with the picture. Inhale for 4 counts. Imagining the wind pressing. Hold for 2. Feeling the presence notice. Exhale for 6. Watching the waves settle. Repeat this twice more. Let the chest lower a little each round. Let shoulders fall like ropes loosened. This is not an argument about control. It is a friend sitting close in a noisy moment. It is a steadying that does not shame anxiety. The storm is not denied. It is met. The calm that follows teaches how gentleness can be stronger than the loudest fear. There is a quiet lesson here for nights that go long. The mind will sometimes be the lake. Thoughts will surge like waves. The presence that calms in the story stands as an image for a certain kind of mercy, calm in the middle of noise. Remember that when breath races, imagine that hand smoothing the brow. Let the image be a refuge. From the lake I turn to short stories, told by example. Parables come next. They are like small lamps set on different tables. Each lamp shows one corner of life. None overwhelm. Each invites attention. These little tales are not laws to obey. They are pictures to rest with. First, picture a field where a farmer scatters seed. Some seed falls on the path. Birds take it quickly. Some falls on rocky ground. It sprouts fast but fails to breathe deep. Some find soil thick with many weeds and chokes. Yet some lands in good ground. It grows slow and strong. The story is simple. Fertility depends on being ready. Imagine yourself as one of those patches of ground tonight. Some parts of life are hard for growth. Some parts welcome a small seed and let it root. The practice here is gentle. Tend the places that can receive. Water the small openings inside where gratitude can sprout. That is not a pressure to be perfect. It is an invitation to make room. Next, picture a tiny seed between thumb and forefinger. It is no larger than a promise. The farmer plants it and knows it will become taller than expected. A mustard seed begins small and ends up sheltering birds. The lesson is not about doing great things at once. It is about small beginnings carrying a future. Faith, in this image, looks like patience. Think of a small act you can do tomorrow. A brief kindness. A note left at a door. A cup poured and set on a table. Do not imagine it must change the world. Trust that tiny things sometimes grow into surprising shelter. Let the image of the small seed hold hope for the slow work ahead. Another small picture takes place with yeast in dough. It is invisible at first. A little bit works through the whole batch. The dough softens and rises from the inside. Grace often works this way. It does not always show like a headline. It spreads quietly. It leavens ordinary bread. Picture making bread in a dim kitchen. Hand presses flour into a bowl. Yeast stirs into warm water. The motion is slow and comforting. This is the kind of miracle that tastes like breaking bread with someone who knows the way to encourage. Let your mind accept that change can start inside. Unannounced. And yet alter everything that follows. There is also a parable about a light put where it can be seen. A lamp on a stand is not meant to be hidden. It gives warmth and helps see the path. Consider what light you can place tonight. Maybe the act is a small story told to a child. Maybe it is letting someone know they are not forgotten. Light can be small and still sufficient. The parables are gentle teachers. They prefer metaphor over instruction. They do not scold. They ask for attention. These stories remind that grace often comes by small, patient means. The world does not always change in a single dramatic moment. Sometimes it changes in a soft sequence seed. Soil. Tsun. As I read, I remind myself to keep the voice slow. The words are not a lecture. They are a hand offered in darkness. The images are tools to use in the quiet hours. If worry wakes in the middle of the night, bring forward one of these pictures. Let it act like a tiny lamp. Let it warm the immediate space. Try a brief practice. Close the eyes and imagine a single seed placed in soft soil. Picture the soil as anything that sits open inside. See a small sprout pushing through. Picture it growing a little each day. Let the heart measure growth in small increments. Keep the scale gentle. Allow time to be a friend rather than an enemy. There is mercy in the parable of the hidden growth. Growth that goes unseen is still growth. Progress that has no applause is still real. Rest in that thought. The body can let go of the frantic need to measure every hour by results. Lie with the certainty that slow work is true work. The calming in the storm and the smallness of parables weave together. Both show that presence and change do not need clamor. A hand can calm a storm. A small seed can shelter birds. Peace and growth arrive often where noise is not loud. I also think of those who listen in the boat. Their surprise is honest. They had been afraid. Then they saw. Their hearts adjust not because they argue themselves into being brave. They learn because a steady thing happened close enough to touch. The parables operate similarly. The mind learns from images more than from lists. It softens by repeated seeing, not by pressure. As one who reads before sleep, I offer a tiny habit for nights that feel long. Keep 3 small images in the mind: a hand smoothing a brow in a storm, a seed placed in good soil, and a small light put on a stand. When worry rises, call one of those images up. Let it hold space for a breath. Let the body follow the picture into calm. Before closing the page, I remind the listener that assurance is a companion, not a talisman. It does not remove the weather. It comes into the middle of it. The parables assure that growth is often hidden. The small images ease the mind that expects spectacle. Mercy is often quiet and effective. I pause and place my palm over the closed Bible for a moment. The sound is small. The room keeps the hush. Breathe once more with the lake and the seed and the loaf. Let the breath lengthen. Allow the presence to steady the chest. Trust that the same calm that quieted wind can steady the minutes that follow. The next part of our reading will carry on into other tender scenes. I will turn the page slowly. For now, keep the images near the pillow. Let them be a map for the night. The lamp stays low. The world outside keeps its own rhythms. Inside, the heart can rest a little easier. I turn the page with the same gentle motion. The lamp leans a soft circle of light over the open paper. The room listens. My voice is low and patient. The book rests like a small friend on my knee. Tonight the words move to a teaching about prayer. The scene is quiet. A few ask how to pray. The question is simple. The answer is simpler still. It comes not as a list of rules. It comes as an opening. It imagines a close place where a person speaks and is heard. The heart of the teaching is intimacy. Prayer is not a performance. It is not a way to earn approval. It is a way to come near. The one who teaches invites a childlike approach. The mind that wants to impress the world is asked to let that urge loosen. The hand that tightens itself into striving is invited to unclench. Think of prayer as a small room with a lighted lamp inside. The door is easy to find. No ceremony is required. The doorway opens inward. A posture of honesty fits better than a long recitation. A short, true sentence is stronger than many clever words. The practice that soothes the nights often begins there. One of the images that follows this teaching is of addressing God as a close parent. This naming is intimate. It is a sheltering word. It does not reduce the mystery. It makes the mystery approachable. The sound of that naming is soft against the ribs. It gives permission to speak of need and fear. It creates a language for dependence that is not shameful. The teaching also keeps the petitions simple. The model asks for daily needs first. It reminds that provision often arrives one day at a time. The mind that plans decades ahead can rest when given a daily portion. Worries about tomorrow do not disappear. They shrink a little when attention narrows to what is needed right now. That narrowing is a gift. It is a practice that quiets racing thoughts. There is a line that reaches toward forgiveness. The teaching pairs being forgiven with forgiving others. The connection is practical, not abstract. When mercy is received, the heart softens. When forgiveness is offered, the load on the chest lightens. The act of forgiving is not always immediate. It can be a slow, patient letting go. But prayer asks for that motion to begin. It asks the listener to hold both not as moral duty, but as a way to live lighter. Another petition asks for protection from the things that would lead a life astray. The idea is not to banish all difficulty. It is to seek steadiness and clarity. A simple request for help in the face of temptation is not a confession of weakness alone. It is a recognition that people do better when they invite strength from beyond themselves. That recognition can quiet guilt and replace it with hope. These basic petitions form a rhythm. The pattern is short. It moves from naming who is being addressed, to asking for provision, to admitting need for mercy, to seeking protection, to thanking and trusting. The rhythm is like a slow walk. It is measured. It does not demand breathless fervor. It breathes steadily. That steadiness helps the body follow the spirit into rest. There is grace in repetition. The teaching does not forbid long prayer. It simply offers a form that can be returned to again and again. Returning to a few words, spoken quietly, trains the heart. It makes a path through the dark. The habit of repeating a simple petition is not empty ritual. It is like walking the same hallway until the way becomes known in the feet. In the middle of a long night, such a path is welcome. Prayer, as shown here, is also about trust. The words used in the lesson: imagine a world whose governing intention is kindness. That imagination is not naive. It is a posture that refuses the tyranny of fear. Trust is a small muscle. It strengthens with practice. Speaking a short trust aloud or in silence is a way to exercise it. Or team, the muscle holds longer and steadier. When reading this to the room, the voice drops further. The body aligns with the text. A small exercise follows the lesson in the way the pages pause. Take a breath. Place a hand, if it feels right, over the heart. Name one small need in a single sentence. Keep it simple. Perhaps it is for sleep. Perhaps it is for bread. Perhaps it is for patience with someone who is difficult. Speak the sentence gently. Then listen. Listening is part of the intimacy. Prayer is not only asking, it is a two-way posture. After a short petition, a silence opens. That silence is not empty. It is an invitation to receive. The mind often rushes to fill quiet with plotting. Practice letting the quiet be. Allow a single breath to stretch into a space where presence can be felt. There is also comfort in the communal sense of the teaching. The request for daily needs is not framed only for the self. It is given as a pattern for a people who live together. Thinking of needs in the plural reshapes the lonely mind. It grounds solitary fear inside a common life. The word that covers many becomes a shelter for one. The intimacy of prayer also shapes how to deal with anger and hurt. Naming a wound aloud to a trusted presence is not the same as ranting into emptiness. The act of saying, in a soft voice, what is hard, can de-escalate the charge that hunger and grievance pile up at night. The teaching models a way to bring such things before the one who listens. When a hurt is spoken, it is no longer a stone in the pocket. It can be set down. Another gentle lesson from the scene is about asking boldly and then letting go. The posture is not a bargaining, but a release. One speaks simple needs without brashness. Then one waits. The waiting is active, but soft. It carries trust rather than frantic expectation. This patient waiting helps the body relax. Tension unwinds when expectation loosens its tight grip. There is an image to hold close for nights of worry. Picture a child holding the hand of a parent as they walk a dark path. The parent does not solve every hazard. The parent keeps a steady pace. The child feels the hand and so walk safer. That steadiness is what the teaching invites into prayer. The hand is real whether or not every fear is removed. Prayer in this part of the gospel also values honesty. A simple confession can be a light thing. It need not be a long inventory of failings. A brief admission clears the throat. It allows hope to speak. The practice is not to drum up guilt. It is to name what is true, so that care can meet it. The act of naming prepares the heart to receive mercy. This teaching is for ordinary nights. It is designed for people who are tired. It fits small rooms and busy days. It does not ask for dramatic sacrifice. It asks for a steady return. A short sentence in the dark can become a shelter. A breath that shapes the sentence can become an anchor. Night after night, this pattern trains the heart to rest in a presence that hears. Now comes a small exercise, I read slowly. Close the eyes if that is right. Breathe in for 3 counts. Think of one small thing to ask for. Keep the sentence no longer than a line. Breathe out for 5 counts. Hold the silence for a soft beat. Then offer one breath of thanks for something even smaller, a warm cup, a kind word, a safe step. Repeat this 4 times. Let the body notice the slowing. An extra practice fits the forgiving line. Think of one small grievance that wakes in the night. Picture the weight of it in the hands, in one slow motion. Imagine releasing it. Do not force a reconciliation. Do not pretend the hurt is fine. Simply picture the hands opening and the weight set down on a small table. Let the chest soften. As the reading lingers, a quieter thought arrives. Prayer is not a way to avoid responsibility. It is a way to invite company into the work of living rightly. Saying a simple petition about patience with a neighbor is not an excuse to neglect the neighbor. It is a request for help, to be the kind of neighbor who heals. The intimacy of prayer supplies courage for practical acts the next day. There is also room here for gratitude. A short thank you at the end of the petition is not an afterthought. It changes the tone of the whole thing. Gratitude trains the mind away from scarcity. It reminds the heart that even small mercies matter. Gratitude softens the night by placing a tether of light in the dark. I read these pages slowly. The lamp keeps its steady glow. The voice holds back from volume. The practice of prayer taught here is less about eloquence and more about nearness. It is a bedside companion rather than a stage. That makes it fit the long, slow program of rest. Before closing this part, I offer one last gentle invitation. Choose a single short line to carry into sleep. Make it a sentence of need, or a sentence of thanks. Keep it simple. Liko kei. When the night stirs, use that key again. Turn it quietly. Let the presence that hears shape the rest that follows. The page rests. The book closes for a moment. A slow breath spreads through the room. The next part will continue with the Gospel's tenderness. For now, carry a small prayer like a pebble in the palm. Let it steady the hand. Let it be enough tonight. I turn the page slowly. The lamp leans over the paper. The room keeps its hush. My voice stays low. I read now from a passage that asks the heart to trust in a plain, steady way. It is a passage that gently teaches what to do when worry presses the ribs. The heading on my mind is simple: discover the depth of faith. The phrase feels like a map. It points toward a place where anxiety loosens. The words that follow in Luke are short and direct. They speak to daily needs. They do not pretend life is easy. They offer a way to live through it. I begin by placing an image in the room. Picture a small kitchen window. Outside, a few sparrows hop on the sill. They peck at seeds offered without fuss. They do not plan for winter in great ledgers. They do not worry about tomorrow's bread. Still, someone watches over them. Their small lives are fed. The sight is not a sermon. It is a comfort. Imagine also a vase on a table. Inside the vase, a few wildflowers lift their soft faces. No human hand arranges them with worry about their future. They bloom in a quiet trust of the season. Their colors turn the light in the room a little warmer. They do not toil for clothing or count their worth. Their beauty arrives and rests, as if the world itself wanted them to be seen. These images ground the teaching. They remind that care passes through ordinary things. Food comes. Beauty appears. Life goes on with help that does not shout. The passage asks not to be anxious about life. It names ordinary concerns: clothes, bread, tomorrow's questions. It does not dismiss need. It instead gives a small remedy. Look outward. Notice provision in small places. Let that sight alter the tightness in the chest. I keep my tone low as I make practical points. Anxiety has a way of amplifying small details into great storm. The remedy here is simple. Shift attention. Watch what is already supplied. Let the mind note a list of small provisions. Try this now. Gently, look at one corner of the room. Name 3 things that are enough for the present hour. A soft blanket, a warm cup, a light that does not go out. Keep the count small. Do not widen the list until it becomes work. The aim is not to produce endless gratitude. It is to tether the mind to what is actually here. Luke points to a very human picture. People who do not sow or reap still eat. Flowers that do not labor still wear beauty for a short while. The logic is tender rather than sharp. It asks the listener simply to receive the evidence of care. It says provision knows how to find its way. I linger on the pantry as a small metaphor. A shelf with jars shows order without fuss. Some jars are full, some are almost empty. That is ordinary. The presence that shapes seasons and birds also tends these smaller things. Keep the shelf in mind tonight. When worry knocks, picture those jars. Imagine hands filling them in a slow, steady rhythm. Let that image act like a small mercy. Faith in this passage is not a grand posture. It is a quiet habit. It is choosing, again and again, to focus on what is given rather than on what might be gone. It is the daily act of locking the mind to a few facts that diminish dread. I read on about worrying for clothing. The story uses the lily as a soft tutor. A small plant stands in a field, free of anxiety, yet clothed with beauty beyond expectation. This is gentle teaching about worth. The implied question is clear. If a field can be furnished with such care, how much more can the one who minds human life attend to those who sleep with fears? Do not mistake this for an accusation. The passage does not shame. It speaks as one caring for a child who cries at night. It comes close, steadies the shoulder, and says, in effect, I know. This knowing is the comfort. It asks for a posture toward trust, not a sudden cure. A small practice follows naturally. Before sleep, look for one small thing that felt like provision during the day. It can be a plate of food that warmed the hands, a phone call that arrived at a precise hour, or the steady presence of another breathing nearby. Keep the memory small and clear. Let it settle in the chest like a pebble. Over time, these pebbles become a path back to calm. The passage continues by offering a final tether. Seek the kingdom first. The line is often read as a distant instruction, but here I speak of it softly. Seek the kingdom in the room where you live. Seek it in the small acts of kindness you did or received today. Seek it in the choice to rest, when rest is allowed. Seeking the kingdom means making the heart hospitable to mercy. It means choosing trust in the face of fear. However small that choice may be, there is a practical way to practice this tonight. Find one small, kind thing to do at dawn. Perhaps leave a piece of fruit on a neighbor's step. Maybe water a plant that looks tired. Or simply make a plan to speak with patience to someone you expect to meet. These small acts make the kingdom visible. They do not bear the weight of changing the whole world. They do, however, bend your day toward mercy. I read these images slowly because they are meant to work like a lullaby. A lullaby is not an argument. It is a steady rhythm. The teaching in Luke is the same. It invites a rhythm of small trust, repeated until the night yields its tension. I hold the room in mind and describe a breathing exercise that lines up with the material. Breathe in for 4 counts. Picture a sparrow taking one small bite. Hold for 2. Let the heart notice how small provision can be enough. Breathe out for 6 counts. Imagine a soft petal settling back into the vase. Repeat this 3 times. Let each round slow the pulse. This exercise is not magical. It is habit. When done kindly and often, it trains the body to answer fear with a longer exhale. The nervous system remembers the pattern. The mind follows. Another image I offer is of a small closet where clean shirts hang. They are not fashionable or perfect. They are what is needed. The sight is plain and regular. The passage uses clothing to point to dignity. Dignity does not depend on scarce riches. It grows in the knowledge that basic needs are tended. Let that thought be a soft pillow for the mind tonight. The teaching also names tomorrow's worries and bids them leave the present. Anxiety often steals the present by pulling the mind forward into possible lack. The page asks for a different arrangement to tend to today. Let tomorrow hold its own burdens. This is a skill more than a feeling. It is learned by practice and gentle repetition. I suggest a practice of small steps. Each morning, list one task that must be done today. Keep it short. Achieve it. At night, note that the task was accomplished. This simple loop calms the mind by proving competence in the narrow sphere of the day. It is a quiet confidence that builds over time. Faith, in the depth described here, is a patient trust in the daily economy of things. It trusts that small, steady mercies add up. It resists the loud demand for instant proof. It rests in pattern. I keep my voice low and offer one more image. Envision a clothesline in a backyard. Sheets fly against the wind. They dry in sun and breeze. The neighbor may look up and smile. The line itself is a small trust that laundry will be tended and returned. It teaches an expectation that the ordinary will be cared for. Let that visual be a tiny anchor. If worry comes tonight, reach for that anchor. Picture a sheet snapping in the breeze. Let the motion be a small assurance that routine can return. Hold on to the image without argument. Let it settle the shoulders. There is a tenderness to the passage's conclusion. It does not promise the immediate fixing of every hardship. It offers a relational certainty, a care that notices need. This noticing is not an abstract kind of help. It acts through small things. Food, clothing, a warmtap, a helping hand. These are the languages of mercy. In the dark hours, imagine these small languages speaking directly to the chest. A jar opened in a pantry, a kettle singing softly, a light turned on to find a child's fevered brow cool. These scenes are not heroic. They are ordinary, yet they form the backbone of a life that can be trusted. Before I close this part, I invite a short, quiet practice. Sit or lie still. Take 3 very slow breaths. With each in-breath, imagine one small provision, a meal, a garment, a safe step. With each out-breath, let the body release a bit of the tightness. Do this slowly. Let the rhythm be soft. Allow the images to stack gently in the mind. The next thing to do is simple and practical. Choose one small act of trust for tomorrow. It might be to believe that one meal will be provided, or to ask for help in a small, practical way. Do not set it as a test. Set it as a practice. Let tomorrow carry a tiny experiment in faith. I end this section with a quiet sentence of purpose. The teaching in Luke is not a call to ignore real need. It is an invitation to live in a way that notices help and receives it. That reception is a form of rest. It is a choice to unbind the clenched hand and accept the bread laid gently on the palm. I close the Bible for a moment and press my palm to the cover. The sound is small. The room keeps its hush. Let the images of sparrows and lilies and a pantry shelf rest beside the pillow. Let them be small lights in the dark. When sleep comes, let the body carry these simple courtesies into dreams. Let the mind find the rhythm of trust in the beat of the breath. I will turn the next page slowly. The next part will continue this gentle journey through Luke. For now, breathe. Rest in the small mercies near at hand. The night is companionable. Trust is a slow habit. Keep practicing it tonight. I turn the page with the same slow motion. The lamp throws a soft pool of light. The room holds its hush. My voice comes low and steady. I read as one who keeps vigil. Tonight, I stay with a story about coming back and being met. It is a story that lives in the tender hours when regret wakes the chest. I frame the scene quietly. A house sits near a small road. It is ordinary. It smells of bread and the day's work. There are rooms that know one another. A family has its rhythms. Inside those rhythms, a choice is made by one who is young and restless. He takes what belongs to him and leaves. He walks away with intent and with haste. The road takes him to distant markets and bright lights. He spends what he has. The world there is loud and quick. Pleasure is quick. Loneliness arrives slower. A season passes. I do not rush this part. I let the images stretch. Food grows scarce. Friends drift. Work is hard and empty. The young one learns what hunger tastes like when kindness is far. He counts mistakes in quiet. Hunger teaches a simple lesson. The memory of a home that once felt ordinary becomes heavy with longing. That longing turns into a decision. He will return, and he will ask for a place that is small and honest. The plan is humble. It is not a demand for honor. It is a wish to be allowed back near the table. I move the scene homeward. The road is the same as it always was. Though the traveller is not, dust coats the skin. Shoes wear thin. He rehearses apologies in his head, the way a child practices a small song. The thought of coming back steadies him like a rope at sea. He is not sure how he will be welcomed. He fears the worst. The map of shame weighs on the shoulders. Then the house appears. I let the light in the room shift a little as if a window opens. The father sees the path ahead. He is doing something ordinary at the moment. Perhaps he is pruning a small plant or sweeping the doorway. He notices a shape on the road. The shape is a figure returning. The breath in his chest changes. He does not wait for formalities. He steps toward the gate and moves faster than might have been expected for his age. He crosses the yard. The distance between them closes with an urgency that looks like mercy. When they meet, the welcome is immediate and warm. The father draws the one who returned into the fold. Shame meets touch. The robe of the household covers not to hide, but to restore a sense of dignity. A ring, a sign of belonging, is placed where it had been absent. The sound of bread breaking starts again in the oven. A life that had been scaling down begins to expand. The household is surprised. Some in the house may feel shock. Others quietly feel relief. The scene is full of small, domestic actions that say, plainly, "You are home." I pay attention to the inner work. The return is not just a change of physical place. It is an inward turning. The one who comes back bows under his faults. He does not pretend they never happened. He does not rewrite the past. He says what he can, in the way that a person who is tired with shame might speak a few honest steps toward repair. The act of coming back itself counts for something. A decision to turn toward home begins the work of healing. An offering of celebration follows. A fatted animal is prepared, not to punish, but to acknowledge that what has been lost is found. Music is set out. The sounds are not loud in a rude way. They are steady and true. People gather. The house fills with a warmth that does more than feed the body. It tells the heart that some doors do not lock forever. The feast says that a life reclaimed deserves welcome, not judgment. I do not leave out the other figure in the house. There is an older one who has kept to steady tasks. He has done what the family asked of him. He carries the contentment of long work and the quiet sting of loyalty. When he sees the celebration, his face tightens. He has been faithful, and he wonders where his praise will be. He grieves in a way that looks like anger. He feels overlooked, and his disappointment has a loud, private voice. The father notices that as well. He steps into a different kind of mercy. He does not argue or justify. He speaks to the faithful one with a calm that asks for understanding rather than compliance. He points to the simple fact that what had been lost is now found. He invites rejoicing. The older heart is asked to trust that restoration enlarges the household instead of shrinking it. The father's own steadiness becomes a lesson in generosity of spirit. I tell this slowly because the pattern matters. The younger one's return shows repentance as a turn, not a performance. It is a movement toward repair that begins in humility. The older one's reaction reveals that faithfulness can also struggle with fairness. The father's response teaches that restoration can be practiced without erasing legitimate sorrow. The house becomes a place where different hurts meet a single, steady kindness. Now I fold the story into life tonight. Think of the parts of life that feel lost. Ayub, a relationship, an identity that slipped away under pressure. Picture the road one has taken. The way back might look like an admission of need. It might involve small steps rather than grand gestures. The act of turning toward home is its own brave thing. The body relaxes slightly. When the first step is taken, the heart begins to unclench. I invite a gentle exercise. Close the eyes if that feels right. Picture a small house with one light on. Hear a door opening slowly. Imagine walking up the path, carrying all that has been heavy. Feel the steps as sure and not rushed. When the gate opens, imagine a hand waiting to steady the shoulder. A cloak offered. A seat near the fire. Let the sensation of being received soak into the ribs like warm tea. Hold it 3 breaths. There is a practical tenderness in the tale. It asks a listener to be ready to welcome. It asks the one who stayed faithful to soften where bitterness has set. Both movements are slow. Both require courage. Sometimes mercy looks like letting go of long calculations about justice. Sometimes mercy looks like a patient conversation that names pain without punishing return. The household that learns to hold both will rest better at night. I keep my tone low as I offer a small discipline for the days ahead. One tiny act can be a doorway. Send a simple note to someone you have distanced from. Not to demand answers, but to say you are open. Make room at a table for someone who looks like they have no place. Offer a small, practical help to a neighbor who struggles to keep up. These are not tests of virtue. They are habits of homecoming. For those who feel like the younger son tonight, know that turning back is not weakness. It is an act of attention. It is choosing a slower, truer road. It will not fix everything at once. It will begin the work. Start with a short sentence. I am coming home. The sentence is not a dramatic confession. It is a pivot in direction. Let it be enough for the first step. For those who feel like the older brother tonight, allow the space for honest disappointment without letting it harden the heart. Speak the hurt in a quiet room. Name it to someone who listens. Then try a small motion toward welcome. The steps will be small at first. They do not erase years of faithful service. They help widen a house's grace so it can hold more life. There is a softness in this story that I want to press into the pillow. It is not about perfection. It is about the willingness to be found and to forgive being found. It is about keeping a home that can hold mistakes and return. Mercy here is a practical thing. It shows itself in robes. A ring. A table. A shared bread. It is tangible. I offer a breathing practice to close this part. Breathe in for 4 counts. Imagining a road back. Hold for 2. Feeling the decision to return. Breathe out for 6. Picturing the warm light of a home. Repeat this 3 times. Let each round settle the shoulders a bit more. Let the mind rest on the idea that coming back and welcoming back are both acts that heal. Before I turn the page, I keep one thought near. Lost things can be found. Wandering can lead to a new kind of knowledge. Shame need not be the last word. A life met with mercy becomes a life where the heart learns to trust again. Hold that picture beside the bed. Let it be a small lantern for the night. When you are ready, breathe in once more. Let the image of a house hold you. Let the quiet work of forgiveness and welcome become a soft practice to carry into tomorrow. I close this section with the sense that rest can come after return. The next part will continue to walk through Luke's gentle scenes. For now, remain in the hush. Let the breath lengthen. Let the heart rest in the knowing that home can be found. I lift the Bible and let the page rest in the lamplight. The room is still. The breath of the house slows. I read softly. Me voice stays low. Tonight, I bring a scene that moves along a dusty road. 10 bodies stand at a distance from a crowd. Their clothes are rough. Clothes of Rabsravskin. They keep their places because the law of the day tells them to do so. Their lives have been narrowed to a set of careful rules and a long list of no's. The distance from the town is measured not just in steps, but in separation. It is a loneliness with its own texture. Imagine the wind lifting dust in little curtains. The air tastes of heat and stone. The road lies open. A figure moves along it. Besides a small group, the one who walks seems untroubled by the crowd and by the rules. The presence draws closer. The 10 look, calculating and hopeful in the same blink. Hope and caution sit together in the chest, like 2 children sharing a thin blanket. I do not speak their words. I hold the scene. The figure looks toward them and receives their need with attention. There is a quiet that comes over the moment, as if a small bell is rung inside the ribs. The attention offered is gentle but decisive. It does not shame. It simply notices. The instruction given to them is simple and practical. The told direction points toward the priests, toward the ordinary channels of return. The sound of the instruction moves through the dust like a small bell. The 10 obey. They step off the margin. The act of walking toward the healers is itself an act of trust. It requires leaving behind the safety of being an object of pity and stepping toward a risk of being refused. The path they take is a slow procession. As they travel, bodies change. Warmth returns to skin that had been cold. Muscles that remembered only rest begin to learn to hold weight again. The cloth that once clung to rawness loosens. A man feels his fingers move, and the simple astonishment of catching one's own motion, one by one, like beads on a string. The small miracles occur. The change is not explosive. It does not demand the roof be split open. It is ordinary and tender. A step needs less effort. A face remembers how to smile. Breath lengthens. There is a specific quality to healing in this scene. It begins with obedience and then becomes delight. The body is grateful in a way that is almost independent of the mind. Muscles sing. Joints. Remember chasing a child or climbing a small hill. The sense of wholeness arrives with a kind of embarrassment, as if one is surprised to have been chosen to belong again. 9 of them keep moving toward the priests. They follow the plan that was given. Their steps grow halting, and then sure. They imagine the official nod. The certificate of return. The way a town might widen its welcome when the letter says it is safe. The path toward ritual cleansing is practical. The 9 set their faces toward order. One does not keep going. He turns back. The return is not a plan to complain or to insist on acknowledgement. It is a quiet thing. He moves with urgency that is not loud. He moves with a small, steady joy that cannot be contained. The same breath that had been small with disease now expands with praise. He does not demand. He gives thanks. This turning back is the heart of the teaching. The act of returning is humble. It is the simple admission that healing arrived as a gift. The one who returns does not claim credit. He falls at the feet of the one who had noticed him. The body that once was covered in shame now kneels in gratitude. The motion of falling is not dramatic in the way a crowd might expect. It is a soft lowering like a leaf settling. It is a posture of receiving. I invite the listener to picture the scene in small details. The dust on his knees, the warmth of his palms, the wetness near his eyes. Gratitude often shows itself as wetness. The tears are quiet witnesses. They do not require praise. They are enough. There is another tenderness in who this one turns out to be. He is from a place the town does not always hold in welcome. He is marked as other by custom, not by his need. That fact matters. Gently, it makes the return braver. It makes the gratitude clearer. When the one expected to be outside comes close and kneels, it says that mercy knows no closed gates. The lesson is not a sharp lesson. It is a soft realignment of the heart's focus. Healing is not merely a fixing of flesh. It is also a restoration of sight. To see mercy and to name it with a simple thanks is to become whole in a sense that goes beyond the body. The returned man's throat carries a new language. It is the language of thanksgiving. That language changes how the world is perceived. The crowd notices, but not with the quickness of applause. They notice with the slowness of those who have watched many kinds of life. I anchor this scene in the small practices of listening and noticing. Practice a tiny habit tonight. Before sleep, name one merciful thing that has been given this day. Keep it small. A warm cup, a kind word, a safe walk home. Say it aloud once in the dark if that feels right. Let the saying be simple. Gratitude is not a performance. It is the quiet recognition that something good has been received. There is also a posture to learn in the returning act. Humility is not self-abasement. It is the willingness to be needy. It is the courage to admit that help was needed and that it arrived. To fall at someone's feet in gratitude is to refuse pride, the last weapon. It holds the right to keep the gift as a trophy. Instead, the gift is received and held gently. The receiving itself becomes a way of loving. See how the scene shifts in small ways for those who watch. The teacher looks on and notices the one who returned. There is no condemnation for those who did not. There is a quiet commendation for the one who did. The attention is not about scoring merits. It is a recognition of a heart that has named its debt of thanks. I ask the room to breathe with the image. Inhale slowly. Picture the slow step back. Hold that breath for the space of a thought. Exhale and imagine the sigh of thanks that floats into the night. Do this twice. Let the breath carry the posture deeper than the mind's chatter. The lungs remember long before the logic does. The scene offers two practices for the days ahead. First, when mercy comes. Return. It does not require a grand speech or a public display. A short, sincere thanks, given in private, often carries the weight of deep gratitude. A note, a touch, a quiet sentence said beside a pillow are enough. Second practice, humility as a daily habit. It looks like admitting need. It looks like asking for help without a dozen reasons. It looks like receiving without tallying what one is owed. I also suggest a tiny act of generosity tied to thanks. Tomorrow, find one small way to make someone else feel noticed. Leave a cup of tea, or a small loaf, or a kind note. Give it simply. Let the giving be a mirror for the receiving that was once offered to you. Mercy grows when it is reflected. There is a calm that settles over the scene as the returned one is seen. The house of humanity feels less cramped where there had been a line between the inside and the outside. A doorway opens. The practice of gratitude widens the room. The night breathes with that wideness. I do not press for newfound zeal. I hold the image and let it do its slow work. The small exercises will shape habit. People change not by a single great effort, but by the steady motion of little things repeated. Let that be a comfort rather than an obligation. Before closing the book, I offer a short, gentle exercise for the listener. Place a hand over the heart. Think of one mercy encountered this week. It might be a small kindness from a stranger. It might be a call from someone who remembered. Picture that mercy as a single light. Let it shine for 3 slow breaths. With each exhale, imagine giving thanks to the one who offered it. Even if that thanksgiving is only a silent bow, let the body relax a little more with each round. This scene ends with a steady thought. Humility opens the hand to receive. Gratitude closes it gently around the gift. The two together make a life roomier and softer. They are not quick fixes. They are faithful practices. I close the Bible for a moment and let the lamp hold the page's shadow. The room keeps its hush. When sleep arrives, let the posture of the returned one rest on the chest, a small, honest thank you, and the quiet courage to ask for what is needed. Mercy is plain and kind. It comes often when least expected. Let gratitude be the pillow's companion tonight. When you are ready, breathe once more. Let the scene sit like a soft stone in the palm. I will turn the page slowly in the next part. For now, rest in the hush of a healed heart. I turn the page slowly. The lamp keeps its circle of light. My voice is low and sure. I read as someone who brings scripture into the hush before sleep. Tonight, the story moves to a small street and a harder heart. A woman walks there who has learned what it means to be overlooked. Her clothes are plain. Her hands remember work and worry. She is not loud by nature. She becomes persistent because she has no other strength. In the story, she seeks justice. The place of appeal is not promising. The one who might decide is careless and unconcerned. His life is secure. His sleep is undisturbed. Yet the woman keeps coming. She comes at dawn and at dusk. Her steps shape the road. Her knock breaks the quiet. The act is simple, a request repeated, until permission is given. I do not read the words as a legal lesson. I hold the scene like a lamp. The woman's persistence is not a demand born of anger. It is a steady refusal to be erased. It is the patience of one who knows that justice may take time, but will not come without a voice. Her courage is not loud. It is stubborn. It looks like showing up. Imagine that slow walk. Picture a small lamp swinging near her knee. The light does not blaze. It keeps facing the path. Each time the woman lifts her hand. The sound on the wood is small. A neighbor might hear it as a series of soft taps. The rhythm is consistent. The judge hears the taps at first as annoyance. Later the rhythm reaches him as insistence. He moves because the pattern will not leave him be. This is a parable about faith that continues. It is a teaching about the kind of prayer and petition that does not accept silence as final. The lesson is tender rather than harsh. It is not a promise that persistence changes a will by wearing it down alone. It points to the idea that a righting of wrongs sometimes arrives because someone will not let the wrong stand. I read these scenes as a bedside counsel. For those whose nights are long with worry about unfair things, the image gives a small strategy. Keeping quiet will not always make trouble easier. A steady word, repeated in a soft voice, can shift a situation. The parable invites both prayer and action. The two move together. Think of persistent faith as a slow knot being untied. It does not mean rushing or forcing. It means returning again and again with a clear purpose. It looks like praying for the same thing every night. It looks like calling a friend for company at the same hour each week. It looks like writing the same letter until an answer arrives. Persistence trains the heart toward hope. For now, rest with the hill's promise. Let the image of the hand and the safe room be like a small lamp by the pillow. Let the breath lengthen as mercy settles near the ribs. Keep the thought simple. A turn toward mercy is not wasted. Being met in the last hour is a truth that quiets the mind. When you are ready, breathe in once more. Hold the image in the chest, like a soft stone. Breathe out slowly. Let sleep come with the steadiness of the promise. I will open the book again and read of the morning that follows. The next part will carry the joy of dawn. For now, stay in the hush. Allow mercy to keep watch. I turn the page with a very soft motion. The lamp throws a smaller circle of light. Now, the room keeps its calm. My voice is low and even. I speak as one who reads at night. The words I bring sit lightly. They ask the mind to lean in like a listener near a hearth. Dawn comes slowly in the telling. The sky is the color of washed linen. A thin pail moves along the horizon. The air tastes cool and quiet. The town still sleeps. A few people stir. The ones who walk toward the place where hope might be found move with a weight in their steps. They carry what they have brought spices. A tenderness. The memory of a night that did not end well. Imagine the path underfoot. Stones press into the soles. Small birds make the first careful noise of the day. The light lengthens. Each footfall is a small prayer. The mood between the footsteps is heavy at first. There is grief. There is an ache that tightens the chest. The journey is not about speed. It is about attending to what needs to be done. The tomb waits at the edge of the rock. The entrance is a dark mouth cut into the cliff. By memory, it should be closed. The stone carved to cover the mouth usually seals what inside is hidden. On this morning, the stone is not where it belongs. It sits like a quarried moon off to the side. The sight is at once simple and strange. A clerk might have called it an anomaly. For those who come with sorrow, it is a shock that opens like a small light. I do not hurry the image. Let it settle in the chest. The stone moved without a human hand beside it. The earth keeps its hush. The absence at the center of the tomb is a presence of a different kind. Linen cloths lie where they once wrapped. They are folded, unfastened, as if someone stepped out from them. The scene reads like a short, clear sentence in a long book. Something has changed. Confusion first, then a tilt of hope. The body that was expected to be still is not there. The cloth that marked death is in a pile. The air moves differently around the opening, where fear had been sharp. Something softer begins to grow. It is not a brightness that burns. It is a brightness that steadies. There is a tenderness in the way the empty space speaks. Absence can be loud when grief is new. But here the empty place becomes an invitation. It invites the mind to imagine that death is a boundary that has been moved. It suggests that grief will not always have the last word. The shift feels like the first deep exhale after holding the breath too long. I pause and breathe with the thought. Inhale slowly. Let the chest make room. Exhale and imagine the stone rolled aside as a worry set down. The motion is quiet. It asks nothing of the heart but to consider that some locks can open when the moment is right. As the story moves, faces change. What had been slack with mourning begins to smooth. The eyes that had blurred with tears clear a little. Memory sends its own light. The ones who came to tend a body remember words that had been spoken in quieter times. Those words come back, not as proof, but as a kindling. A heart remembers a gentle promise offered when days were simpler. That remembered warmth becomes an ember that slowly glows into understanding. This understanding does not arrive like a lecture. It arrives as recognition. A heart that had been resigned lifts and says, in its own slow way, That which was broken is not final. The thought makes the breath a warmer thing. It does not remove sorrow. It changes its shape. Sorrow becomes memory, not a chain. There is a spiritual stirring here that is small and real. Awakening looks like a sleeping bird opening its eye. It begins as a small, sharp moment of focus. Then the body follows. The limbs of the mind that had stiffened from worry begin to move. Hope is not triumphant in a shout. It is steady and quiet. It presses like a hand smoothing a furrowed brow. The empty tomb becomes a teacher in a gentle lesson. It says, without a loud voice, that there is a way through the worst endings. It suggests that the great dark places of the life are not permanent dwelling places. The message sits like a warm cloth over the shoulders of the tired. It allows the ribs to loosen. It makes room for breath that runs deeper than before. Picture the morning light touching the stone. It catches on the edges of the cloth and makes it shine like white water. The scene around the tomb is not ornate. It is simple and honest. That simplicity is part of the message. Joy that rises as a quiet certainty does not need a crowd to be true. It can be borne by those who see and who tell. Telling matters here. The one who senses this change feels the pressure to tell others. The motion of telling is not boastful. It is an offering. It takes the shape of small steps back toward the town. The feet that come away from the rock carry news that will ripple. The act of telling is gentle responsibility. It is the practical way an awakening becomes a shared life. If you imagine hearing the news, think of how your own chest might respond. A small light can move through the ribs, like the first light of morning through a curtain. The mind that has gathered dark thoughts will let one new image in. That single image can shift the tenor of many nights to come. There is a moral to keep quiet, and near the pillow, the discovery of the empty place invites a personal reorientation. It asks what stones are set across the small doors of a life. Fear, guilt, old shames. Names for them can be long, and many. The scene lets each listener imagine rolling one away. The act is not an instant victory. It is a small practice of setting down what has weighed too long. I offer a gentle exercise, and we do it together with the breath. Inhale slowly, imagining a stone at the door of a small room inside the chest. Hold for a breath or two. Exhale, as though pushing that stone soft and sideways. Repeat once more. Let the muscles that had held tight relax a fraction. Keep the breathing quiet. Let the ritual be small and private, beyond the image of the stone. The linen speaks a gentle language. The cloths left behind look like wrappers set aside for a traveler who has stood and gone. They do not scatter. They rest folded. The order of the cloths says something about intention. The empty wrapping suggests that life has resumed motion. A mind that moves is less likely to be trapped in a looping memory. Motion opens space. There is also a warmth in the shape of joy that must be named as quiet and steady. Joy here is not the noisy triumph of public festivals. It is a still, resilient gladness that warms the hands and spreads without urgency. The kind of joy that heals the night is one that loosens the jaw and makes the shoulders drop. It is an interior warmth that children know after an argument is mended and the house feels safe again. Let the thought of that joy rest on the chest Let it be small. Let it be accessible. Imagine that the surprise of the tomb is a gift meant not only for those who stood there first, but also for anyone who has ever been awake in the dark. It tells that every lonely hour has a contour that mercy can touch. There is a movement in the story toward mission. The ones who come away tell. They do not tell to create converts. They tell because they cannot keep the news to themselves. The telling becomes the means by which the good morning reaches farther. Each told image is a light that others can hold. The act of testimony is a quiet way to enlarge the shelter. Think of telling in domestic terms. A kettle whistles. A neighbor hears and comes in for warmth. A single voice can invite another to the table. That is how the empty place spreads hope. It does not demand ceremony. It opens a path. The discovery also opens a place for wonder. Wonder steadies the mind in a way that answers do not always manage. It is the childlike feeling of seeing a tide turn. Wonder loosens the posture that says everything must be accounted for. It returns the heart to a posture of receptivity. Receptivity leads to rest. I speak now to the practical night. For those who wake with questions about what comes next. The empty tomb is an emblem. It asks for trust small enough to trust the day's bread for the next meal. Trust a kind conversation that might begin the mending. Trust that the stubborn weight can be set aside for a single breath. The emblem is not a proof. It is a habit offered to the worn. There is also an inner awakening that goes beyond relief. The mind that is used to measuring value by performance learns something different. Value is not only what is earned. The discovery implies an underpinning of welcome that is not fully earned but given. That realization releases a strain from the chest. This release does not remove the need to care or to act. It provides a ground on which to act. Actions born from a lighter heart are more generous. Kindness becomes simpler and more frequent. Mercy slides into daily tasks like oil into joints. The world around the listener softens because small hands move with more patience. Let the scene carry a final image. The empty place is like a small garden left open at dawn. Seeds that had been trodden now turn toward light. The garden invites the feet to enter. Walking through it is a choice to live as if the promise that cleared the tomb is true. The walking is not a parade. It is a steady step that returns the body to the town and the heart to daily living. I keep my voice low as I draw this section to its close. The discovery of the empty place offers a message that is tender and persistent. It carries triumph and rest together. It says that the worst of nights do not determine the final shape of life. It proposes a peace that roots in presence. Before I turn the page for our last part, I give a small invitation for the moments before sleep. Think of one small worry that has been your stone. Breathe with it briefly. Imagine setting it aside. Picture a short step toward someone who can share bread tomorrow. Keep the motion small. Let the mind be satisfied with one good deed. Let that suffice for tonight. Soon I will offer a closing with a gentle prayer. For now, let the empty place be a lamp in the chest. Let the memory of dawn at the tomb rest like a quiet ember. Hold that ember and let it warm the pause before sleep. When you are ready, breathe in once more. Let the breath be slow and soft. The next part will bring a closing word to settle the night. I close the Bible with a slow, careful motion. The cover makes a soft sound. The lamp keeps a gentle circle of light. My hand rests for a moment on the book. The room feels held. The breath in the house follows a quieter rhythm. Tonight's journey ends where it began, in small, steady things. The stories pass like soft weather through a life. A hand that steadies a knee, a lamp set on a stand, a seed tucked into patient soil, an empty place that becomes a doorway. These are not dramatic fireworks. They are the ordinary gestures that remake a night into something bearable and then into something hopeful. I name what matters most, without argument. Mercy arrives tenderly. Healing happens through touch and attention. Forgiveness reconfigures the body and the heart. Presence enters rooms that have been too full of worry. The gospel scenes are not complicated instructions. They are pictures to rest on. Let each image act as a small lamp to carry into the dark hours. Breathe with me once. Inhale slowly, letting the lungs find their width. Hold for a soft beat. Exhale long, releasing the tension that has lived in the shoulders. Repeat this 3 times. Let each breath be slower than the one before. Let the chest learn a quieter pace. Now, picture one single image that has felt kindest to you from these pages. It might be the field with its wide sky. It might be a hand smoothing a brow in a storm. It might be the table where bread is passed. Let that image sit in the middle of your mind. Do not chase other thoughts. Keep this one small, clear, and close. As the image settles, let a small practice grow from it. Choose one tiny thing to do tomorrow that reflects the mercy you have felt. A short note to a neighbor, a loaf left for a friend, a slow phone call to someone who needs to be heard. Do not promise a grand change. Promisevon a manageable kindness. Hold that promise lightly. It will be enough. There is peace here that does not depend on erasing difficulty. Pain may still be present. Loss may still be a living edge. But the stories show a way to live inside difficulty, with company. Let that company be the thing to lean on when thoughts sharpen at night. Remember the image of a presence that does not lecture but sits close. Let that closeness be the felt fact you can carry. I offer an exercise for the middle of the night, when sleep feels thin. Place a hand on the chest. Breathe in for 4 counts. Feel the warmth beneath the hand. Hold for 2. Let the exhale be 6 counts, as you picture a small stone sliding off a doorstep. Repeat this 3 times. The body remembers pattern more readily than argument. Allow the pattern to slow the pulse. There is also a practice of speech that helps. Keep a single short sentence ready to say when worry arrives. Make it a plain line. Perhaps it is a name of thanks. Perhaps it is one small request: help for patience, help for sleep, help to forgive. Say it quietly in the breath between in and out. It is not a test of belief. It is a gentle bridge between the present and a steadier presence. Listening matters as much as speaking. After a short petition, try to hold a space of silence for a breath or 2. The silence is not empty. It lets something settle. It becomes a place to receive rather than a gap to fill. From this posture, restful thoughts arrive more easily than from frantic trying. If it feels right, keep a small object by the bedside as a reminder. a stone, a ribbon, a worn coin. When the mind loops, touch it. Let the contact be a cue to return to one of the images from tonight. Touch slows the mind. It gives the hands a task that softens the judgmental inner voice. I invite a brief reflection exercise to be done tomorrow when the day is kind. Write one line about what calmed you tonight. Make it small and simple. Keep it no longer than a sentence. Share that line with one other person. If the heart leans that way, sharing is not a demand. It is a way to multiply the gentle work done in private. Now, a gentle prayer. I speak it slowly, and let each sentence rest like a hand on the shoulder. Gracious presens. Come near in the hush. Let your peace fold around the chest like a soft blanket. Meet the restless mind with patience. Meet the heavy heart with mercy. Gift sleep that restores, and steady mornings that return courage in small measure. Keep watch over the ones who feel alone. Let them sense a hand laid quietly on their lives. Help us to give small kindnesses tomorrow. Teach us to return again to the bread shared and the lamp passed. Hold what is fragile and keep what is hopeful. Amen. After that quiet prayer, leave the breath open for a few moments. Let the silence be a place of receiving. The words do not demand a quick proof. They are an invitation to a different rhythm. There is a final encouragement I want to tuck into these last minutes. Keep a short list of 3 small things that show mercy in your life. Not long inventories. 3 items only. A friend's voice, a meal shared, a dry coat left on a chair. Look at the list tomorrow morning. Let it guide one small action that day. The habit is tiny and steady. Or a team. It rewires the nights. If sharing feels helpful, tell one trusted person about one image that changed you tonight. It does not need to be a sermon. It can be a single sentence. A shared story often makes the lamp seem brighter in 2 hands than it did alone. When people tell of solace, the comfort grows like gentle heat in a room. I will come again to this place with the same slow voice. The book stays near when the house needs a low light. There will be other evenings for other scenes. For now, the aim is not to fix everything at once. It is to steady the breath, to hold a small image, and to sleep with a soft hope. Lie still if that feels right. Let the chest match the lamp's small glow. Allow the jaw to unclench. Let the shoulders fall away from the ears. If thoughts come, watch them as if they were leaves on a slow stream. Do not reach. Do not push. Notice one, and return to the chosen image. Remember, this mercy often moves by small hands and quiet choices. Healing tends to be a series of small moments. Hope is a light passed hand to hand. Keep that picture near when midnight arrives. Trust that kindness will repeat itself in ways that are not flashy, but that are real. The night is not an enemy. It is a partner in the work of resting and renewing. Let it do what it can without hurry. Allow tomorrow to bring one small kindness to match the one chosen tonight. Now, one final breath together. Inhale slowly, holding the chosen image. Hold for 2 soft counts. Exhale fully, letting tension sink down and out. Release what can be set down. Allow sleep to come as a gradual thing, not a demand. I will close the book now and sit with the hush for a moment. The lamp will be left low. The room will keep its quiet. When morning comes, let the small promise be kept, one tiny act of mercy, one sentence of thanks, one shared note. Those things matter more than they appear. Rest well. Keep that gentle prayer in the chest. Carry one small light into the coming day. The presence that tends the sparrows and the lilies keeps watch here too. Sleep in that kindness. Good night.